Last year, the world was faced with high food prices as the global financial crisis set in. Africa was hard hit at the time, and many who could not afford food staged protests in various cities. Farmers were therefore asked to boost their yields in 2009 to help improve things. Senegal embarked on a program to increase agricultural output and called it Goana, or the Great Agricultural Offensive for Food and Abundance. Baye Adiuma Gweye cultivates rice on 40 hectares of land in Rosbethio village, 300 kilometers north of Dakar, and was chosen by the government to benefit.
We used to cultivate and work these fields using just the means at our disposal. We were buying expensive inputs, but at least those who could afford them were buying them. Now, with Goana, several water plants have been distributed. The president came and gave them to the regions, and the committees decided where to put them. The inputs have been subsidized 70% during the hot season and 50% in the cold season. They also made some improvements free of charge to our fields for those who own some land.
Goana was launched by President Abdoulaye Wade during the global food crisis. He wants to cut back on food imports and make Senegal self-sufficient by 2015.
Senegal
decided to live up to the challenge, to get rid of hunger and even more than that, to produce for abundance.
For small-scale farmers in Ghana, it was an encouraging year after a new farm loan scheme was introduced to help them grow their businesses. The Alliance for a Green Revolution in Africa, or AGRA, that's chaired by Kofi Annan, signed a deal with Standard Bank to allow farmers in Ghana, Uganda, Mozambique and Tanzania access loans worth $100 million.
Inflation, food shortages, trade imbalances, and a tightening of global credit will pose huge social, economic, and political risks for this continent. But while credit is frozen worldwide, I don't think Africa needs to sit back, sit on its hands, and wait for it to thaw. Today, we are harnessing our own expertise and resources to catalyze smart, sustainable agricultural development that will put good food on the table for millions of Africans.
Agriculture gets only 1% of all business loans in Africa, which mostly goes to large commercial farms. Banks often consider small-scale farming to be too risky for lending. Farmers like Gamson Samuel often borrow money from friends to help them grow their businesses. Gamson lives in Sawam, eastern Ghana, and was harvesting his pineapple crop when we dropped by. Though he knows about the new farm loans, he's more concerned about marketing his produce.
We want to see at the end of the day, when my fruit is matured, I will get somebody to buy the fruit. Because if I have the loan, I work with the loan, and at the end of the day, I have this, and I don't have anybody to buy the fruit, it's going waste. Look at this. This is going waste. Assuming there is somebody around to purchase it, it wouldn't go waste. So AGRA, what we expect from them is to get us buyers, and then also pineapple processing factories in the area of the crop production.
One of the continent's most important food crops is cassava, which feeds over 400 million people. In the 1990s, 10 countries were hit by brown streak disease, or CBSD, which dries up the tubers and makes them inedible. So here on the small Tanzanian island of Zanzibar, researchers are breeding resistant varieties.
You try to evaluate to see those attributes that are preferred, like you evaluate against disease resistance, against good taste, dry matter content, let's say fiberness, and other attributes. So you can end up with very few materials, but promising one that you can propose for release.
67-year-old Hamisi Muhammadi Sharifu is one of the farmers enrolled on the pilot project. He once lost his entire crop to CBSD. Hamisi is happy with this year's yield and is always proud to share a meal of cassava with his friend and advisor, Hamid Haji.
When we come back from our farms, we are usually tired, so my wife goes to the kitchen immediately and cooks cassava. It only takes 10 minutes and it is ready to eat. And if I didn't make any money on that day, then you can just eat it with porridge and life still continues well.
Sometimes food security can start in your own backyard, as these youth in a Nairobi slum showed when they converted a rubbish tip into an organic vegetable patch. They now produce enough to sell some to their neighbors.
This area had a very bad reputation. The youth here were very bad before they reformed. People looked down on us and they said bad things about us. They said, those young people are wasting their time. They have come up with an idea that will not help them. They are lazy and are in a habit of reaping unfairly. They will not manage. This brought our morale down, but we pushed on, encouraged each other and managed quite well.
Sue Kahumbu is an organic farmer and helped set up the Kibera project. Around the world, only 2% of farmland is farmed organically, yet the method helps build soil quality in a healthy way.
I don't think that there is an option for anything other than organic farming in many developing countries. And the reason being, as a nation, as a globe, as a planet, we've reached peak oil. The prices of fertilizers, which are byproducts of oil, are just going to continue to skyrocket. Farmers are not going to be able to pay them. Where governments want to subsidize farmers to do this, I think that is erroneous, because once those subsidies run out, we're back to square one. In fact, we are before square one. We're in a negative situation.
Nigeria has come up with a different strategy. The net importer of food has invited farmers exiled by Zimbabwe's land reforms to rent and cultivate land. Graham Hattie is a former wheat farmer who now grows cassava on 600 hectares of land.
We were employing 600 people, so we had a school for 250 children, and we really were part of the community, and that's probably what cost us, is that we had too big an influence on the community. For me, it's been exciting coming here. I'm doing what I want to do, which is feed people. That's all I've done all my life.
4 decades ago, Africa was producing a food surplus, but today has to import food to meet the demand. But the resources are there, and some countries are now selling land concessions to governments elsewhere who are growing food for themselves in Africa. In the long run, it would make more sense for African countries to increase their own yields, much like Nigeria is doing, and cash in on food prices, which are expected to stay high for the next decade.